I was 10 years old when Martin was born, and my mom immediately handed him off to me so I could take care of him instead. I protested and said I didn't know how to take care of a baby, but she just told me to figure it out. My name is Amelia, and I'm 25 years old. I moved out of my mother's house just a few years ago, and I've been trying to get my life put together since. See, ever since my younger brother Martin and I were young, our mom always treated us like her own personal servants and that we only exist to help her with the chores around the house. This was the exact reason my dad left her in the first place, and I still wonder why he never took us with him. I was 10 years old when Martin was born, and my mom immediately handed him off to me so I could take care of him instead. I protested and said I didn't know how to take care of a baby, but she just told me to figure it out. For a long time after that, I was his primary caretaker. And all the while, our mother was always bugging me about the chores around the house. She always wanted me to do everything, from cleaning the floors to vacuuming every room, to all of the yard work and gardening, too. While I was busting my butt, trying to take care of everything and make sure Martin wasn't neglected, our mother just sat on the side watching me, like she couldn't be bothered to help. I never really understood how strange that is until my friends and I talked about it during high school.
Ugh, it's so unfair. My mom says I have to do the dishes for the entire week as a punishment.
I don't get it. What's the problem? Doesn't your mom always make you do the dishes?
No, a different person does them each night.
Amelia, does your mom force you into doing the dishes every night?
Well, yeah. And not just the dishes either. I have to do everything around the house and take care of Martin on top of that. It's how it's always been in our house. At the time, I didn't know why Jenny and Mia gave me a couple of weird looks. But now I understand.
Amelia, that's not normal for parents to do to their kids.
What? Of course it is.
No, it isn't. In my house, everyone takes turns doing the chores, and our parents are the ones raising the kids.
At the time, I could hardly believe what I was hearing. I'd been raised having to do everything around the house myself while my mom just sat back and told me what I was doing wrong. To me, that was normal. I hadn't considered that maybe she was taking advantage of me like that. I couldn't stop thinking about it when I got home that day. As soon as I walked in through the door, my mom ordered me to do the chores like she always did. I knew I shouldn't and that I should confront her about what she'd been forcing me to do all my life. But then I remembered Martin. Eventually, our mom would start forcing him to do exactly what I've been doing, but he was just a child. Until he grew up some more, I was the only person taking care of him, and I had to put his well-being first. So I just did as my mother ordered. I didn't want her taking out her anger on Martin if I didn't. And I never blamed Martin for me being forced to take care of him. It's not like it was his fault or anything. Besides, if I didn't take care of him, I knew our mother wouldn't, and I didn't want him to feel like he was alone growing up. But as the years passed and I grew closer and closer to graduation, I couldn't help feeling resentment towards our mother, and I yearned to be free of her. I didn't want to be stuck in the house, slaving away at every chore with her behind me, telling me I'm doing everything wrong. It got to the point where I couldn't even look at her without feeling all the anger I'd been bottling up for years. One day, it finally exploded. I came home from school that day, and as soon as I set my bag down, my mom was in the room ordering me around.
There you are. The attic needs to be cleaned out now. Get to it.
No.
What do you mean, no?
You can't boss me around and treat me like your personal maid anymore. I'm your child, and you've treated me like some kind of cleaning staff and personal chef for my entire life.
You're my child. You're supposed to do whatever I tell you.
No, I'm not. I'm supposed to do chores and look after my brother, but I'm not supposed to slave away for you all the time. And I won't do it anymore.
How dare you disobey your mother?
How dare you treat your kids like they only exist to serve you? You're a terrible mother. You don't deserve to have children. I didn't let her get another word in and ran up to my room. My friend Mia and her parents could let me stay at their house until after we graduated that week. And after that, I would be off to find a place for myself in a nearby town. Mia, Jenny, and I had planned for that a few months prior, and we saved up some money so we could move in together. As I was packing my bag, Martin ran into the room crying.
Amelia, please don't go.
I'm sorry, Martin, but I have to. I can't just stay here anymore and deal with our mother every day.
What am I gonna do without you?
I don't know, but I promise. When I'm able to, I'll come back and get you out of this house, okay?
Do you promise?
I promise. I'll come back for you. I left the house that night, and after graduation later that same week, I didn't go back. It wasn't easy for me. I never wanted to leave Martin in the sole care of our mother, because I knew that she would just force him to do everything in the house now that I was gone. I also couldn't help the feeling that I had betrayed him by escaping that house. Without me there wasn't anyone left to care about him and make sure his needs were getting met. Our mother certainly wasn't about to start caring about him the way I had. That thought was almost enough to make me consider staying and enduring more of our mother's awful behavior. But I left anyway. My friends and I moved to a nearby town, and at first we could only afford a small apartment together. I needed to support myself and also save up enough money to take care of Martin once I brought him with me, so we all had to save as much money as we could. I asked another one of my friends still in our hometown to keep me updated on my mother and Martin and to watch them from a distance. After a couple of years, my friend informed me of an incident that happened with my mother and Martin while one of her friends, Marianne, was visiting. I knew Marianne well, unfortunately. My mother would invite her over a few times a week, and they would both delight in ordering me around, trying to do everything for them all at once, and then make fun of me when I couldn't get it all done. To hear that she was doing the same thing to Martin made my blood boil. My friend who heard the story from Marianne the next day told me that our mother and Marianne had forced Martin to clean the house right in front of them, and then deliberately got the rooms dirty again and forced him to start all over, calling him names as he did so. I remember when our mother would do that to me, and how frustrated I became with having to clean the same room multiple times, not to mention the harassment too. I made a decision then that it was time to finally get Martin away from our mother and into a house that actually cares about him. I traveled back to our hometown and went back to my mother's house. As soon as I got to the door, I heard yelling inside and I rushed into the house. I found my mother and Martin in the living room, him cleaning up something on the floor, while she stood over him shouting. Neither one of them seemed to notice me as I got my phone out and started recording.
Oh, you stupid, stupid boy. Do you know how much money I spent on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
You're going to pay for that.
I caught my mother dragging Michael up by his arm, and as she raised her arm to hit him, I stepped into the room. Don't you dare lay a hand on him. My mother was shocked by my sudden entrance and froze when she saw the phone in my hand. Michael broke free of her grip and ran over to me with tears still in his eyes.
You're back. You
And I'm here to rescue Martin from you.
can't do that. I'm still his mother. He needs me.
No, he needs to be loved and cared for, and he'll never have that when he's with you. I'm taking him to live with me and make sure you never get your hands on him ever again. I left the house with Martin and immediately went to get a lawyer so I could get full custody of my younger brother. We went to court, and with the video I took, as well as my friend's recollection of what happened with Marianne, I was awarded full custody of Martin. My mother and Marianne were both charged with child abuse, and my mother was charged with child neglect and ended up in jail because of it. Meanwhile, I took Martin back home to live with me and my friends. We all chipped in to make sure his needs were being met, and I always reminded him that everyone takes turns in maintaining the house, so he never had to feel like it was his responsibility alone. After a couple of years, I was able to move me and Martin into a small house, and we've been living comfortably ever since. From what I hear, my mother couldn't get a job anywhere because of her arrest and her past being exposed, so she couldn't afford to keep her house. And with the way she spent money on lavish and expensive things my whole life, she didn't have any savings to fall back on. Martin and I couldn't be any happier, though, now that we're finally away from her, and we're able to live our lives without having to worry about serving someone else. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe